So after some tech troubles, this is session 2 of 2 for Guards of Abashan with the Gauntlet Hangouts here. We are trying the online version of a card-based version of Fate that my local group has been playing for about, what is it, 2018? So about 18 years in various iterations over multiple campaigns till we kind of tuned it to this version. So because I could do card decks in Roll20, I decided to do that. And these lovely players were patient and generous enough to agree to put up with this. So I'm thanking them in advance. We are playing Guards of Abashan. They are city guards in this great, massive Lankmarian city of Abashan. It is the desert lies out beyond it. There is a river that runs through out to the sea. It is a fantastical place, with great spires, with ancient towers, with beautiful onyx gardens, and then this kind of place that's collapsed, from multiple levels of people building and digging out from under. That's all fallen in, and so we have the pit, which is where our group operates in. They are the guards for this area, which is made up of some newly rebuilt sections of buildings, sort of a small town in there, and then lots of ruins and other kind of assorted detritus and weird places scattered about. They have headed out to deal with the day's incidents and had a couple of things on their plate, including a fire and some adventurers that have gotten rolled. They decided to follow up first on the adventurers and ended up sticking with that despite some distractions, some shelving duties and some organizational duties and some purchasing that needed to be done and some engagement with delectables. All of these things occurred. And they were able to discover a number of pieces, that there were a couple of hobbits involved with this, halflings, however you say that, possibly husband and wife, possibly brother and sister. They may have been setting up some kind of operation. They're probably the people that took out the most recent adventurer who was escorting a young noble. So that's my real quick summary. What did I miss? What details that are salient to this have I left off the table, my fine players? Keith, is there anything that comes to mind for you?
No, just that we encountered a somewhat eclectic group of creepy crawly dungeon horrors and managed to corral them all back into their law-breaking owner's place of business, and we still need to deal with his malfeasance.
Yes, now that is the thing. Red Histina, this great slotty seller, purveyor of exotic creatures, who may have, turns to our fine accountant friend, may have not completed yet the necessary paperwork. It's mail, we're getting it ready, all of that. So he is a little bothered by that. Steve, what else salient did I leave off of the table from these notes? Anything?
The only thing else regarding that Redistina, the slutty, was that he did mention that the two hobbits broke in and knocked him about the head before making off with a pregnant blink dog.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So the hobbits, you believe it's the same pair of hobbits, or else there's a number of hobbit criminals operating in pairs, stole at least this blink dog monsters may have taken other things, but at least those have been taken and made off with. Anything else that I missed? Ellen, can you think of anything that I left out?
just that it appeared that the map that the explorers were using appeared to be a forgery. Whether that's from the Hobbits or from someone else or some other larger scandal, we do not know.
Yes, that's right. You have a fake map that Argo recovered from the belongings of this gentleman who got killed. And you checked that. You used the lemon juice thing. And with your amazing skills with ink, we're certainly able to determine that this was not exactly the most excellent of forgeries. So let's take up there then. But let me have each of you, before we do that, just to remind everybody who each other are. Let's go around and let's have you do your 30-second pitch on who your character is. What do they look like? What do they do? That kind of thing. Let's start with Argo, our noble gnome.
Argo is, insofar as the guards considering him sort of like a jovial little constable who walks around. Appearance-wise, I kind of imagine him, since he's a gnome, as a mashup of David the Gnome from, the old cartoons on Nickelodeon, and Aladdin from the Disney movie, and then Fat Belvas from Game of Thrones. He's sort of like round and tubby and sort of like has too much bravado. He has almost a little Shriner's hat and a little vest, so his little tummy sticks out.
Shriner's hat, is he wearing a fez?
Yes.
If he is, then Red Histina has certainly complimented him on his noble choice of headwear at least a couple of times during this to try and butter you up.
Yeah. And, so far he's just sort of like nodded and smiled, but the others seem to have a very direct line of inquiry, so he's just sort of staying back and letting them take care of business for the moment.
Excellent. What about our noble elven wizard, Delsarin?
Yes, Delsarin is a elder elven wizard. The elder elves are very tall and skinny, and less, I guess, Lord of the Rings-ish. His house was taken down by another noble house about 30 years ago, and his fashion is approximately 30 years old, because that was the last time he had any significant money. He's still haughty and arrogant. He took to the guard because he would not bend the knee to any other house.
Excellent. Then Edward, our duelist.
So yeah, Edward is a relatively nondescript fellow. Brown hair, brown eyes, medium height, fit, but not overly muscular. Mostly dresses in gray. Dresses a little bit like somebody who wishes he knew how to dress maybe a little bit better than he does. Just not quite sure how to go about doing it, and always displays his badge of the city guard. And he comes from a merchant house with aspirations to the nobility, and he actually joined the guard thinking that having some contacts in the criminal underworld as well as in the law enforcement bureaucracy could be useful in that regard. But he's come to find himself in really good company. He really enjoys serving, and he really enjoys being around his fellow guardsmen, so he's actually quite loyal to them.
Excellent. And finally, Hapa, our a servant of the Inky God.
So Hapa is a short, tubby kind of guy as well. He fashions wearing a beautiful black cape. He's wearing quite heavy armor with designs on it echoing his religious ties to the Inky God, which the Inky God is in the form of a blue-ringed octopus. So he also wears blue metallic rings. He joined the guards out of necessity because he was trying to get into the bureaucratic business of the Pit and Pinnacles, and he got rejected because he's not such a stickler that he would be difficult to corrupt. So they sent him to the guards, where he is not completely happy, but he's doing what he can. He carries around a leather satchel which he has maps and field guides and all kinds of handy things. But yeah.
Which did prove useful in identifying some of the beasts that were out in the courtyard earlier, as I recall.
Very useful.
So, Red has expressed his contrition, has expressed that he understands that he has not kept up on his side of the paperwork, and that there will be fines to pay and court appearances and all of that. But he certainly is more concerned about having these animals retrieved, not gotten loose. So that's what he's done. He will say, I have some devices for calming said beasts. So I could certainly provide you with some of those tools if you're going to be searching for these malefactors. Does that seem like something that might look good in the future testimony against me in court? I'm really saying.
It may, if it helps us retrieve them.
Excellent.
But from your review, what is missing besides the blink dog?
I had a gelatinous cublet.
You had what? In the city?
See, now, they're actually very, very safe, provided you keep them contained, because they don't have a great rate of growth. So this one was a baby cublet, so it's about 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot. So it's a cubic gelatinous cublet footlet thing.
No, I just wanted to bring up the fact that you phrased this as had. I mean, we just saw several animals that got free, and now we've got them back.
Yes, well, Delsarin asked me to look and see, now that everything has been returned, what was missing, and it's the blink dogs and the cublet.
So we're looking for a very clean trail somewhere.
Well, hopefully they haven't let it out now. I wouldn't want to handle it. I have to have special gloves to work with it.
Where was it kept? As I start looking around,
they took the whole thing. It was a glass box. It doesn't go through glass.
Oh, so definitely stolen then, not let loose and wandered off.
That is correct, sir. Yes. Wait, does that sound better or worse for me?
We'll let you know once we find it.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough.
Now, where do you keep your security sketch artist? Normally, there's a sketch artist installed in places like these to record people that come in and out of the store.
See, I think you may be under a misapprehension, Mr. Hoppa, that this is the pit, and to have such luxuries is it is not a requirement in this city. Certainly, it would have been, now looking back on it, perhaps a good idea.
If we look at page 62 of the city rules, we can see that if you're holding dangerous goods, i.e. gelatinous cube, that you will have a sketch artist employed in the corner to record people coming and going. I do see that on my schedule here.
Let's have you make a mental pull. He goes for his papers to kind of pull out his. Well, I have wait. I have a dispensation on certain aspects of this business. So let's have you pull that. And remember, you just click on the top edge of the card. Oh. You are certainly correct, Mr. Hapa. I apologize for. Yes, I see here in my paperwork that it says in big bold red letters that I am required to have a sketch artist when dealing with this. I seem to have overlooked that.
So how may we, pray tell, discover who had stolen these creatures?
They were two hobbits. They all look alike to me, but they're small. You seem
all
to think,
hobbits are small, sir.
But I don't know if they're smaller hobbits than normal. I have no measure of scale. I don't carry hobbits. Look, I understand that there's some grave irregularities in my account here, but some of you, I do provide services to the various mages and so on in the city. Is there any way that I could make you think more favorably on my case, and perhaps you don't throw me in? Is it a brig? Do you call it a brig, or is it a jail or a cell? That's all vocabulary to me.
The hole.
A hole. So I'd rather not be thrown in a hole. So I don't know how this works. Where I come from, I would go to my safe and bring out a sack of money and put it on the table and turn away. But I don't know if that's how it works here.
Don't make me get out my book again.
Okay, no. At this point, I'm more afraid of that book than I am of this blink dog infestation. So let's perhaps move on.
Do you have a tracking that you could loan us?
I do not have a tracking thing. I do have a cage that can hold the blink dog, and I have this sulfuric device that if you give it to the blink dog, they will chew on it, and it should render them insensate.
So I'll turn to the somewhat distraught Slotty and say, I think your previous suggestion might not be as well received in some parties as you might hope, but a moment of privacy would be well received by us all.
Yes. I will go, and given that I have not had my slotty flakes yet today, I will go upstairs and fix myself a big bowl of those, and then I will return down here forthwith.
Capital plan. I'll turn to my fellow officers. Are we really going to let this guy make it our responsibility to find his escaped merchandise? I mean, I'm all in favor of finding the blink dog and the cublet because they're a hazard. They're a threat to public safety and whatnot. But
I have no problem finding them, but they're not being returned to him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And frankly, any of these creatures that are not authorized are going to be seized.
Well, it seems to me that we may end up finding them just in the course of finding these Nalakars anyway. So, but I agree. There's no reason to give it back to him. I think if he feels that he is, in our debt for, that is completely fine. But, I don't know. I don't know that he really has any further use to us unless we happen to mention the Nalikars and his face suddenly gives away that he, knows something about them specifically. He seems to say that he has no idea who broke into his shop.
Have we not said the name? I genuinely don't remember.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so I'm thinking maybe we accidentally mention that in conversation just to see if he's got a reaction. But otherwise, I don't think we have much more to say to him other than, Hoppa, the size of the book you wish to throw at his head.
Yeah. Oh no, not just the book. I've got about 6 fines here, and I think we need to shut the shop down until the rest of the irregularities are cleaned up.
Couldn't agree more. I think maybe a responsible, reputable party should be identified to, operate the business until this current unpleasantness is sorted out. That's what I have in mind.
Well, while you are sorting out the farewells, I'll have a runner sent to the station and have them bring guards to put this place on lockdown.
Okay. Certainly, you can send for your legalist, Brysantimist, and he will bring some of the witless minions that you have serving you that will come and stand in front of the door. Red Histina comes back down. So, did you decide?
I don't know that there's really much to decide. I mean, after all, you have some merchandise we simply need to find in the course of our duties.
No, that's certainly job one.
And I would say that, unfortunately, and I kind of look at Hoppa as I say this, the true fate of your establishment really just depends on your ability to navigate the sort of Byzantine labyrinth of wording in the books there. So, if there are avenues that you have open to you in terms of the people who need to be persuaded in whatever manner persuasion occurs, I think that will be revealed to you as you start dealing with the bureaucracy.
So long story short, I'd send for my litigator.
Yeah. You should talk to your lawyer.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll wait. I assume you're going to lock down the business.
Already underway.
Okay. Well then, I'll just.
That'll give you time to clean up. In whatever way you see fit. And I'll sort of give him a conspiratorial nod.
Okay. He goes and he starts moving some things around. He sets this bag down on the table and goes back to working on things. And after a bit, Brysantimus will arrive. So what's going on? I have to lock this place down?
We have several violations of city code here. A number of illegal creatures stored, and some have escaped. It is quite messy. There was quite a ruckus in town. And look, do you want me to give you my notes? I have.
Oh God! If you've got them already written up, yeah, I'll take those. Yes, certainly. Oh yeah, yeah. I just signed my name. It'll be all good then. Great. Okay. We'll lock the place down, and I'll have one of the mooks take the proprietor back to the barracks to sit and wait until his representative comes. Fair enough.
Excellent.
really, it would be more correct if you write your own notes, like you are the advised senior here, and I'm just advising you on the situation. But I have impeccable notes. I can guarantee.
You do, and let's think of it as a whole sort of mentor apprentice kind of thing. You know, where I'm doing this to pass on and show you how good your stuff is. That's how it's working here.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Excellent work. Good work.
Good job.
Very good. All right.
Yeah,
he will send one of the slack jaws to take Red back to the barracks, and they will lock this place down.
Before he goes, I will, because I said it and then completely forgot to actually do it when I was talking. Talk to one of you where he can overhear and say, so, well, part of what we might need to do is think of why might the Nalikars want these animals, and just, sort of over my shoulder, very, obviously, not obviously looking at him.
That doesn't seem to register for him. He's more sort of a slotty, crestfallen that he's going to have to shut his business down, and that there's going to be weeks and weeks sitting at the bureaucracy, possibly plus some jail time. So that seems to be on his mind, and you guess he doesn't know who the Nalikars are. So you can head out from the business, out that courtyard outside. People are getting their stalls reset up. They're cleaning up all of the fruit and such that the monkey was throwing, and getting that all set up. And they'll watch as you pass through. They eye the slotty uncertainly as he is taken away. They don't know whether this was some sort of deliberate attack or just incompetence, or a little of both. So it's, let's say, still early afternoon by the time you've checked all this out and you've gotten this part of the problem locked away. So is it time for lunch, or do you want to press on to head somewhere else from here? What is the plan? What do you think, Delsarin?
Well, if we're going to go out of town, we should certainly have a meal beforehand.
Yeah, it's always time for lunch.
Let's sit and talk at that establishment. And I point to, a tavern right on the edge of the market. Perhaps some of their employees may have seen the ruckus and noticed if the hobbits were present.
Certainly, you can head over to the Leaky Crock, and it specializes in a thick soup of indeterminate nature that they will serve out to you. It definitely has some meat. It definitely has some raisins in it. They have lots of salt and pepper here for you. You're going to try and talk with the workers here. Okay. Let's have you make a social.
Working. Yeah. Let's see. That's a draw.
I was going to say, if you want to talk to the front of the house, I can go try to talk to the back of the house. I always feel like there's cook staff and wait staff hanging out in the alley smoking something on their break. It's more likely they're going to be.
That's probably a good idea. After all, they take deliveries at all hours. Okay, so have a great.
Okay. I think between the two of you, kind of talking to the front and back of the house, what is the primary question that you want answered?
I feel like there's two. One, did any witnesses see what happened? But then two, are there any, maybe the washer, the busboy seems particularly streetwise, and have they just heard the name Nalakar that they might, even if they saw nothing, maybe they know those names and might have some inclination of where to find them. At least that's what I kind of think.
What do you think, Delsarin? Does that fit, or do you want to modify that at all?
I was going to confirm that it was the Nalakars, by our physical description.
Okay.
And
okay.
Ask if they had anyone else with them. I mean, a blink dog is not small.
So you will talk to some people here, and nobody here particularly wants to talk to the guard. But when you hit them up in the back, so on, they will say, "Yeah, the Nalakars have been around the area. We know who they are. We thought they were like casing a place around here, but we kept out of their way. The last time they were through here, they had this dwarf with them. This had one eye, one hand, kind of a limp, so they maybe he was a hireling or what, I don't know, but he looked kind of mean. But you guys aren't the first people that have been asking around about them today.
Really?
Yeah, we had some other guys come through early this morning that look kind of nasty, cutthroaty, that were asking about the Nalakars, that name in particular.
You say nasty. I feel like folk like that always seem to have a tattoo or a scar someplace. Maybe they've got a weapon that just stands out, that sits on their hip. Anything that you can tell us that might help us track them down? And I know that, Roshan, that you've got your grandmother's had that hip. I can stop by and try and help her out with that. I think I've got a little bit of time, later on tomorrow. If we manage to get this sorted, I'd love to get her back on her feet again.
I think with the answers you guys have so far, they'll be able to provide you some sketchy information on the group that they saw, that there were a couple of guys, humans, looked like they had, light armor on, like they were clearly, swords for hire. Maybe total group of about 6 people. Had the look of people who were on the trail, like they've been crossed or double crossed or triple crossed, and we're looking for these hobbits and that dwarf. And that's the sort of the basics that they can give you off of that line of inquiry. Does that seem fair?
It does.
Okay. So then Edward, Hoppa, let me ask you guys, where would you head next?
So, as it happens, I know a couple of dwarven duelists. There's not a lot of dwarven duelists in the city. It's not the sort of thing that dwarves tend to go in for, fancy footwork and flashing swordplay. It's not really their oeuvre normally.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a gym not too far from here where a number of them hang out, and I think I'm going to drop by there and talk to a fellow that I've sparred with on a few occasions, and see what he can tell me about this one-eyed, one-handed, mean-ass dwarf who is willing to work for halflings. There can't be that many of them in the city.
True. I'll answer that question if you'll tell me what the name of a dwarven fencing school is.
The name of a dwarven fencing school is...
Ooh, the short sword.
Well, I don't think I could hope to do better than that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you'll head over to the short sword, and they have it's a nice place. You know, dwarves have built it well. You'll hear the sound. Now you know the sound of flashing rapiers and quick sounds of exchange of blows. Imagine that, and then slow it down by about 50%, and you have the sound of dwarven fencers going at it, you are a noted duelist. That is one of your things. So certainly no one questions you as you come in, and you will see your dwarven duelist friend Theopolis will see you, and of course immediately stop. Probably get stabbed because he gets distracted. And oh, Edward, how
Teddy,
are you?
I'm well. You might want to get a stitch in that later.
Oh no, it'll. I've got some gum I use for those things.
Just poke it, just poke it right in there.
Absolutely, that's kind of have a sealant thing.
I've told you 100 times to keep your eye on the point of your opponent's weapon, and
Well, then you shouldn't have come in and been in here in my peripheral vision. For what that's worth.
So look, I'm trying to run down a little bit of a lead. Thought maybe you could help me out. Okay. Tell me what you know about mercenary dwarven type. Might be working for some halflings as muscle. Looks like he's been on the wrong end of a battle axe once or twice. Short a couple of digits.
Oh yeah, there's only one dwarf I know who would match that description. That'd be Lucky.
I suspected that was going to be his name. Yeah, seen him around lately?
See, he's on the outs because he pulled some stuff with some of the elders a while back, and has been in trouble and kind of rolling from trouble to trouble. So the last time I heard it, he was mixed up with hobbits, like Hobbit Carnast and stuff. But the other thing I heard is that he was doing some work, like dwarven work or something.
Dwarven work or something.
Yeah,
mining,
like
smithing, construction, murder.
No, murder isn't dwarven work. Not exclusively. No, that's just a subset of the work that we do. No. So anyway, no, more like building stuff. That's what I heard.
Okay. Where was that work happening that you heard?
That's the thing. If he had been doing it around in here in town, like close by, one of us would have gone and kicked over his cart. You know what I mean? But now he hasn't been doing, so he might be out in the ruins or something.
Okay. I'll drop a silver coin into my palm and play with it idly. Any particular part of the ruins I should be looking for that you maybe heard in a rumor that I would never be able to attribute to anybody?
Why don't you make a social poll here, my duelist friend?
Why don't I tell you what? Instead of making a social poll, why don't I just write an aspect of well, precision duelist is my
high concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't I write I'm going to write aspect of gym rat.
Ah, good. I like that.
And then I'm just going to immediately spend that fate point on my last stunt for Fast Friend. And this guy and I have sparred a bunch. I'm always giving him like conflicting advice. Like one week I'm telling him, "Oh, keep your eye on your opponent's hand," and the next week is always look the guy in the eyes. And then the week after that, it's like never take your eyes off the tip of his sword. And And
this,
the lesson I'm trying to teach
is so complicated.
the lesson I'm trying to get through to him is that he's going to have to figure this stuff out on his own, right? So he and I have known each other for quite a while. So I'll say my piece and I'll flip the silver piece up in the air where he can catch it. And wait for his.
He'll say, so there's a set of area when the whole thing came down where the temples fell.
Right.
And people don't usually go or mess around in there. Sacrilege. Plus the temples have shitty stuff. So I heard that he was messing around in that area.
That's useful. That helps me.
Is it?
It does. You might have saved some lives.
Okay. And in Hapa, just to kind of tie that in, that's certainly the area that this map leads towards that you have.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would have come along with Edward because the food didn't look that appetizing at the pub. And I think...
Pub is a very generous description.
Yeah, the dive.
Yes.
And he kind of sees Edward as like being a bit of a leader. So he would have trotted along behind him, and when the men were doing all the manly stuff with the swords and stuff, he would have just been sitting it off to the side and like rifling through his satchel. And as the conversation seemed to be getting interesting, he came over, and when they're talking about possible locations, he brings out his map and is like, can you show me on the map where you think this work is happening?
Yeah, see, you actually got it. The little lines that you've got there, the little where that arrow is at on the map. Yeah, it looks like you've already got it marked.
Yeah. Just checking. We're obviously very competent guardsmen, so we.
Oh yeah, no question of that.
Just fact checking, you know.
So Hapa, this leads me to think about the conversation we had earlier about maybe these guys have some kind of scam going on. They're forging these maps. They're luring these little noble wannabe adventurers off so they can roll them and mug them and such. They could be building a whole, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but I'm imagining that maybe they could be building a whole sort of a bogus, dungeon or adventuring site or something in the old ruins. You get the spoiled brat rich kid in there. He falls in a 10-foot pit, gets a poison spike through his ankle. You show up and offer to rescue him. You know.
Yes, I've read reports about such endeavors.
Yeah, it's a big break for us if we can, shut this whole thing down.
Well, we could stake it out from a distance. I think maybe we could call the guards in to go, the lesser guards.
I was sort of imagining a sting kind of operation. To be a bunch of adventurers that are looking for a big score and trick these guys into leading us right into their scam, and then we turn the tables on them.
Yes, you would be great at that.
I'm thinking that the person that could pull it off is Argo. He's got that silver tongue. Him and Delsarin, they've got those silver tongues. I'm thinking they could pull it really well.
Yeah,
I mean, we'd be right there, right behind them the whole way, ready to
behind. Yeah. I have a great telescope that could get us a great view while I record notes on their work.
Or make sketches, even.
Yeah. Okay, let's take it to them.
I think this is a good idea. Let's go back to them, see what they think.
Yeah,
so
they'll love it.
We would do the wipe back to Delsarin and Argo, with you guys having pitched this to them. When the camera cuts to you two, what's your reaction to this suggestion?
I think that Argo has his face is just sort of that same, just like a few frames too long of the same smile with no reaction before he says, he pulls the Bill Murray. I'm excited for this plan. I'm happy to be part of it. Let's go.
Delsarin, what's your thinking?
He's sort of surprised. It's like, so you want me to do what again?
You got that, that thing that you do where you put a notion into someone's head sometimes. You remember you did that with that Knoll, that Knoll second story, craziest case we ever worked, that wall climbing Knoll second story guy. You convinced him he was already on the second floor and he was afraid he was going to fall to his death. Remember, if he didn't accept our help and he was standing right there in the middle of the street. So I'm thinking maybe we could find these. I still haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do that, but we find these guys that are pulling this scam, and you do your mind thing, and we trick them into thinking we're a bunch of spoiled brat rich kids who are hoping to go on an adventure, and then when they try to scam us, we got them red-handed.
Yeah, I got a map.
Yeah, the ability. It just sounds like a lot of work on my part.
We're right there. We're right there. We can get support if you need support. We can document
one wrong
it.
move by any of you and they'll attack us. Are you prepared for that?
They won't even see us.
I'm always prepared for that, but sure, we'd be ready.
There's no way that we would do anything to mess it up.
I mean,
if anything, you guys would be the. I mean, no, it'll be great. It'll be. They won't be.
You can hardly carry that sword. I can't remember the last time I've seen you swing it.
I'm swordsman enough for
no,
not Papa and I both.
I mean, really,
let's work on finding them, because if there's a group after them already, we might show up just to find them dead.
Wow, that would.
Yeah, see, win-win.
Now that we're fed, let's head out to the ruins.
All right. So you will gather your things and head out. It's about probably about an hour's walk out there at an average pace through the rubble. You'll see where people have kind of gathered some stone or cleared areas out to try and start rebuilding here, but there's still a lot of fallen down buildings and old wood and rot, and the rain comes down in here, so a lot of things are getting overgrown, and it's still pretty muddy, so it is not a pleasant trek out there. But you have a map, and you will follow that, and you can see that along the way there are little like signpost things on your map, and someone has very clearly set up sort of like this pile of skulls, as a signpost, or this rickety scarecrow has been sort of freshly created here to serve as your trail to get to this place,
so that even a blind adventurer could find it.
Exactly. You could even be 0 level. It could be a funnel, and you could make it. And you will head on, and eventually you will reach the spot, and you can see that there is a kind of a broken road path that goes down, actually kind of slopes downward. There's kind of slight walls around it, like it's almost like a like maybe it was a staircase down at some point. And the top has come off of it, but you can see it goes down, and there is this doorway, darkness beyond, and there's this ornate carving around this doorway and this sort of face over it, and it looks like this is the place, this dark and beckoning tunnel before you. And that's where we're going to take our 5-minute break, and when we come back, we will be back in 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
I like Tejas is misleadingly fat and jolly.
Yep.
I think that's
I like the concept.
A good one.
Aspect. Yeah. I listened to the most recent episode of Gauntlet, or at least I think it's the most recent episode, on my drive home today.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no idea, Lowell, that you had such a profound hatred for fudge dice. It was kind of.
I keep trying for them to work for me, and every time I'm like, ugh.
Have you ever played Indie Hack or done the Fate modification where it's you roll 2d6 and subtract the black die from the red die? Or
no, I haven't done that. I will admit. So that might actually make
it's certainly
feel better.
swingier than the 4DF, the standard 4DF. It was especially funny to me because, as it just so happens, I don't have any particular feelings about the fudge dice one way or the other, but the times I've played Fate, we've always used them. And the most beautiful dice sets that I own are all fudge dice.
Oh yeah, they do beautiful work.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like them, but I backed the current Kickstarter project. I will.
Yeah, okay, well, I didn't go that far.
Well, they have the Fate points too, and I love tokens. So.
Right. Well,
on that note,
are
the cards? Is the distribution even?
Oh right.
What do you mean?
So obviously the cards have ranges of success.
Mm-hmm.
Is that distribution based upon either the character's skills or upon an even distribution of positive and negative effect?
That's a really good question. So the deck is about this deck is 23 cards. 6 of those are the special cards that everybody has. 3 of them are your 2 unique good cards and your 1 unique bad card. And then I think 8 of them are the same for everybody, the sort of the standard results. And then you have 6 standard result cards that are tuned to your character.
Okay.
And then in play, what people do is they spend points on raising those results across their cards. And actually, because they're on this, they'll actually write on the cards. And so the cards become theirs over time. Because you can write edges and things on them. So they get super messy eventually.
No, but I like the concept. I like that spread.
Mm-hmm.
That is not only based on the character or unique aspects of the character, but also some standard ranges.
Yeah, and we've done drafting play with some of it where people have a standard set and then they draft to fill out the deck to make their characters. So that's been kind of fun. So you've got this inviting or ominous, depending on how you look at it. Doorway goes down a ways into this opening of darkness before you. Kind of look around, and it's just kind of rough rubble and dirt around outside beyond that.
You don't happen to have a torch in there, do you, Hoppa? Looking at your case.
No, I've got papers. Like, torches are very dangerous around all these papers. Don't you dungeon divers have that kind of gear in your adventuring gear pack?
Dungeon divers.
I will look to see if they perhaps, thought that some adventurers might not be prepared, and if this is a scam, they would certainly encourage them to go in.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I'd say that if you hunt around, you can find the cheapest torches possible. Like, they're short, and they're probably, when you light them, they're going to give off all that black pungent smoke and stuff, but they will function as a light source.
Because while I can, as an elf, see decently at night outside, once we go underground, we're going to be at probably Argo's mercy in terms of showing us where we're going.
That makes sense.
So let's I'll take one of the torches.
Okay. Let's say there are 3.
Well, I'll take one. I fight one-handed anyway.
Okay.
I don't want to go in the hole. How about
you'll be at a disadvantage out here if you're by yourself when the rest of those ruffians come this way.
Harper's looking around quite nervously now, looking in his bag, trying to like scope out good hiding places.
You should stick with us, Harper. We can protect you. We'll look after you.
Yeah, give me that torch.
I think as they're persuading Hoppa, Argo is just sort of like looking around and just sort of like not really realizing he's doing it. He keeps stepping a little closer to kind of see if he can peer into the darkness until by the time that Hoppa has actually finally said, like, yeah, give me that torch, Argo might actually be like a step or two like far enough into the darkness that they are suddenly realizing, wait a second, Argo's already in there. I don't think he can help
absolutely
himself.
That seems absolutely fair to me. And in fact, I will give you a fate point for invoking your trouble aspect to Curious by Far. Could I, though, Argo, just to confirm exactly how the situation rolls out, could I have you make a mental pull for me?
Sure thing. Mental. Does this come with anything that gives me a second flip, or am I stuck with catastrophic?
Here, do you have Thief?
I have no Thief. I'm looking at myself, right? Okay. I have athletics. If there is a thing that suddenly comes out of the darkness, then perhaps I can be dodging or diving. But if it is something more like
you have to investigate.
Yeah, I like investigate. That's a good call there, Hoppa. I'll give you one repull with investigate.
Okay. Let's see. Ooh, and we go up to amazing.
So there is that bit where you've kind of scooched forward. They're still talking, and you've come up to that sort of archway, and it's some of the best paper mache that you've ever seen. Textured and painted and stuff, and it's got the little face thing above that. And you're about to step forward when you realize that frame around the outside is kind of lower than the actual roof inside, and you kind of lean in and look, and there is a tripwire and a wooden slat with rocks piled on it that all these rocks would have fallen on you.
I see. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think I can get away from my nature quite enough. I kind of just sort of call over my shoulder, not really paying attention to whether they hear me, say, hey guys, watch out as you come inside, and I just sort of step over it.
Okay. So I will assume by this point the three of you've got your torch out, those are settled out, and you will see that Argo has walked into the dungeon.
Like, wait up for us, Argo.
Yeah. It's dangerous in there. So, did we hear his offhand comment to watch out as we step inside, or is he leaving that up to luck?
So you can say yes, we heard it, or you can say no, you didn't, and I will give one of you a fate point.
Well, I have pretty good hearing as an elf.
Yeah, I think that's
okay.
I heard.
I'm pretty sure Harper's freaking out and is probably like not thinking straight. Like, I think he's just checking his bag for all like what potential supplies he's got, and like looking around, really nervous that something's going to jump out at him. So he probably didn't hear.
Okay. So I'll assume that then Dasaran will have to put his arm out to stop you, Hoppa, from hitting the tripwire at the entryway there.
Which I will.
Thanks.
Especially since if I'm right in front of you, the rocks would come down on me primarily first, as I'm taller. So I'm like, didn't you hear the man?
What?
I point down. I'm like,
oh.
You're much closer. You should be able to see this.
I like the image of one of Hoppa's feet on one side of the wire and the other foot on the other, like straddling it, ready to like tip a toe right through it.
Like,
because he's a desk.
These rocks,
desk?
Flat.
Oh, and he follows Dasaran's hands and the tripwire up to the rocks. He's a desk worker. He doesn't know about traps unless they've been in his reports. So he just carefully steps over and is sweating profusely, is so much more pale than normal, kind of a greenish tinge to his face.
I respect your intelligence, Hoppa. Just follow where we step. And make sure that if you, or when, you happen to flee this dungeon, that you make sure you do not trip over this tripwire. Because assuming you're the first one out, the rocks could block our path.
Hopper's trying to write all this down.
Oh, dear.
If you're the last one out, though, be sure to step on the tripwire so you can block whatever's chasing us.
There's no need to make this more complicated.
All right.
Let's proceed while we still have our nerve.
So, Argo, you've moved in. You're kind of checking out the area. I've got one of the torches. Edward, and then we've got Delsaran and Hoppa. Right now, Argo, you kind of spotted that. So you're kind of looking on the ground for more traps as you're moving along, watching for that kind of stuff. Edward, you will notice as you kind of move along here, up on the wall, there is this face, like a weird, another one of these sort of stone-ish carven faces with this big, wide open mouth. And you can see that there's this glint from inside the mouth.
Argo. I'll tap Argo on the shoulder. Hold up just a second, and I'll point up towards it.
Okay.
Can you see that? What do you make of that? Can you make a squirt?
I'll sort of peer at it and what exactly, I mean, like, does it, because you said that there's almost sort of like a facade over something else that's existing.
Yeah, imagine they've got sort of like a big version of one of those tragedy comedy masks.
Yeah.
Kind of stylized, big, wide open mouth there, and they're sort of inside the wall, there's a glint.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I meant when we first came in, you said the entrance is almost Epcot Center like a little small, little fabricated, but then pasted over something that's an actual ruin. Or at least
this actually does seem like a tunnel of some kind.
So I guess what I was asking was, does the mask and all that stuff, does it look like one of the bits of artifice that they've pasted up here, or does it look like something that's actually part of the ruin?
It looks like it might have been part of the ruin.
Okay. I think, just because I want to, do something unexpected, he will be looking at it, and it's kind of far down, and there's like a few corners and a couple little footholds, and so all of a sudden he just sort of like springs up, puts one foot on there, not quite parkour. He's not going running like over across stuff, but almost more like the Jackie Chan little like dump dump dump, and all of a sudden he's just sort of like hanging on to something to look at it from right next to it.
Okay.
And he's gonna try and peer a little bit further inside at the glint without actually touching the mask.
Don't go sticking your hand in there. Nothing good will come of that.
Kind of take a look. Kind of aim the torch there. It's pretty well done. These pieces of glass that they've put at the back of this to kind of catch your torchlight. Mm-hmm. And you'll see kind of reflect in there, and you can just make out the teeth of the bear trap that's been put in there as well.
Okay.
You can see the kind of rusted, bloodied teeth on it. Like it's clearly gone off a few times.
And then been reset, so I say. But nothing in there looks like it's actually valuable. It is purely to lure people into sticking their hands inside.
Yes.
I think I'm going to look around and that little chuff of wood. Could you hand it to me for a second? And when they pick it up, I'm just gonna sort of, real carefully get ready to sort of wedge it in, and then I'll just sort of like pop it forward as I drop down, just to leave a untriggered trap when it doesn't look like it's going to cause any other effects. I'd rather just set it off so it can't accidentally come back and bite us.
Fair enough. And there will be that snapping sound as this bear trap snaps down on the piece of wood there. And you can leave that go. So this is the pattern that you will see for the next bit. As you go through, this is clearly in the underchambers of some kind of building. It's hard to tell exactly what it was, if it was in underchambers of a temple or something that has been cleaned up. Some places have been restored a little bit, has that look of maybe a little bit of dwarven craftsmanship to get it to look. A lot of set decoration done in various places. So let me ask you then, Edward, what do you suppose is the next pseudo trap that you guys come across?
Well, we're still missing the classic, right?
Okay.
So I'm guessing that either Argo or I fall in a hole, or perhaps narrowly avoid falling in a hole.
And that would be the thing. The pit trap here is very much covered over with a kind of a tarp, concealed to hold in. It's given just a little bit so you can tell that there's something there, and you will pull it away, and it looks like it's maybe a 20-foot drop, and it looks like probably some people have fallen in there before, but you can guess that after that their bodies have been stripped of equipment, given that you saw these things pawned in the town.
Is there any smell indicating it might still be full?
Could kind of lean down. That's a good question. Kind of lean down, and you can see that, yes, there is somebody at the bottom of this.
So we should at least see if it's the young noble.
Right. I was going to say, do we see anything that might mark him as Linsett, either like a little, glint off of a signet ring or anything like that?
He is better dressed than your average adventurer. Like you see, he has a kerchief. That's not standard adventuring equipment.
What are the walls of the pit? Was it dug out of the dirt?
No, it's actually a smooth stone. You guess that this might have been some kind of drop down shaft to another level, and it's about 20 foot. It's smooth. There's some rocks on the bottom, clearly to make it more jagged. So I'll say if you look closely enough, you can see that there are probably a couple places where you could tie on a rope to lower yourself down.
I was just going to suggest, actually, given that we believe, and we've seen a lot of evidence that this whole thing is kind of a honeypot's not the right word, but it's a fake dungeon to lure unwise people to their dooms. This is actually maybe the final trap. If they don't fall in this, then their escort gives them a little nudge. And I think maybe at the bottom, there's a place where they can enter and exit to clear things out. Or maybe on the far side of the pit, there's a rope that's normally hidden by the tarp that covers the pit itself. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds reasonable.
So I've got I'm gonna get a running start and try to parkour, spring off the one of the walls and clear the pit so I can throw the rope down and climb down. Or
sure.
Maybe,
let's have you make a physical pull with athletics.
Okay. So my athletics is 2, and I get a +1 bump. That's if I'm in a chase. All right. It's still
or similarly precarious environment, but I think that's
for the chase.
For the chase.
Physical is okay.
Okay. So it won't look pretty, but you can get down there.
These guys have seen me at my best and my worst, so it's okay if they see me at my mediocrest. So yeah, I'm not worried about looking pretty. So I get over there and I'll throw the rope down. I'll shout down. Is he conscious?
And you can shout and help! Oh, I'm very hurt. Could you please help me?
Are you Linzit?
Yes.
All right. I'll look across to to the rest of my squad, Delsarin and Argo in particular. I can climb down.
With the hobbits, are you?
I think once I realize that he's hurt and alive, I'm already sort of like bouncing down in, just sort of like drop down from the ledge, maybe kind of half jump so I can grab a bit of the rope so that I'm not just like plummeting when I hit the bottom, but I drop down next to him to immediately start providing him with some succor.
Sure. And you've got the rope there. You're a naturally gifted athlete. The two of you can do this. Get this guy set. You can provide the magical healing to get him stabilized. That seems like a thing. Let us though have you make a mental pull. I want to see essentially how good a status you can get him to.
Also, it says stress C and stress B. Is one of them starting, or are they two different tracks?
Current and base is what that should be.
Okay. So I should knock my current down to a 13.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you said mental pull?
Yeah.
Okay. Fail and... You know what? I think I'm actually going to take that just because I like the idea of this being kind of a choice for him. I think, what do you guys think would be more interesting? As I sit there and try and work my magic on him, there's something wrong with him that I just can't like manage to magic out while he's at the bottom of a pit? Or do you think that because of the nature of his injuries, maybe the only way that I can really heal it is maybe take on some, part of his injury myself in terms of like fatigue, or some other sort of,
it
says make it hard bargain.
The situation that you have is that if you want to take the fail, I'll give you the fate point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want the fate point?
I mean, I always want the fate point.
Well, then say yes, I want the fate point. Yes. And I'll tell you what happens.
Let's just do it.
Okay. So you three are down in here, and it's kind of tight. And you kind of go to do the healing on him, and get him set. And kind of as you're moving around, you're like, "Ooh, I shouldn't have healed his leg that direction."
Oh.
Ooh, that's going to be a problem later, like big time.
Like I'm going to have to re-break it to heal it properly type of thing.
He probably isn't going to feel it because you filled him with that magical energy. So he hasn't noticed yet. But
he tries to walk.
Yeah, and he goes to walk. He's going to realize that you have healed his foot at an 85-degree angle.
You know what? I'm sorry, Oedipus, but I feel that we may need to do some further administrations when we are free. The severity of your injuries is more than I can really deal with in such difficult conditions. But for now,
so let me cut from you three down in the hole to Hapa and Delsarin. They're down there for a while. What are you two doing in this dark and dangerous dungeon here while this is going on?
Unless I hear screams, I'm keeping an eye out because, Argo did trigger one of the traps previously. So I would think that would be some indicator to the nefarious hobbits guarding this place or setting up this place to come check on the trap. So I'm waiting or trying to observe and see if something comes after us.
Okay. And Hapa, so Delsarin is alertly, intently watching the hall. What's your reaction to this?
Hapa is terrifyingly watching everything. He's shaking. He's got the torch in one hand and his absurd octopus beak sword in the other hand. And he's just shaking and darting his eyes around, starting at shadows and any noise that he hears from down in the well. He's really nervous.
Perfect. Kind of got that shakiness there. Delsarin, let me have you make a mental pull. Repull with investigate.
With investigate? Okay.
Yep. This is not a magical action, so it would be a just miss unless you want to repull.
I'll repull with investigate.
Okay.
And I will go for my third or my second repull.
Yep, last repull.
And risk whatever it is. I will spend a fate point to win big.
So you are watching there.
Mm-hmm.
And Hapa is shaking kind of nearby, panicked. And you will see this dwarf kind of pop his head around the corner, realizes that there are people in the hall, and starts to wheel backwards to go back the way he came.
There's two of us. I'm going to, because I can see him, I'm going to try and plant a thought in his mind that we are the hobbits.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Let's have you
I'm not sure if this would be planting the thought or the illusions.
I think it's probably illusions, actually.
Okay.
So go ahead and make a mental pull with magic as your repull.
I'm going to do a repull on that. And what does it say? Mental amazing. I will go with
amazing. So, and now, mind you, you haven't seen those hobbits, but you've got some descriptions of them. They're hobbits, so these look like Oliver Twistian hobbits, probably the most stereotypical waif hobbits.
They do make Hoppa the quote-unquote female hobbit.
Okay.
Because pride.
Okay. And the dwarf goes, and Hoppa, you now realize there's a dwarf in the hall. And as dwarf goes, you with the Nalakars?
What?
And is he on our side of the pit?
You guys are probably past the pit, I would assume, both you and him.
I'm like, I'll just sort of like, well, get over here. Sort of mumble.
He'll kind of limp over. So, you with the Nalakars?
I don't think Happa knows that this illusion has happened, because, would he be affected by it as well?
It is a mental illusion, so I assume not.
I would not have targeted you with the illusion.
So he's got no idea what's going on. So he'd be like, Delsarin!
Well, except that you would have seen him cast the spell, because all spell casting's obvious.
Yeah, so you saw that. So right now, you do react. You do say that till Delsarin, and this dwarf's like, wait, and this is not the sharpest axe in the kit here, and he begins to back up, like he's not sure what's going on, and then you hear from the pit probably, oh yeah, no, that hurts very much. Oh, ow. What do you want to do, Hoppa?
I'm getting my torch and waving it at him. Stay back.
Oh, my beard. Back. My beard.
Hopper is backing towards Delsarin.
Okay.
Oh no. Well, he's not very good in real life situations, so he could potentially fall in a pit. Yeah. But he's trying to get closer to Delsarin. He's trying to put the torch in front of him, between him and the dwarf. He's just really freaking out.
And Delsarin, you've got this guy. He knows you're hobbits, but he knows there's something weird going on. He's not sure what's happening. What do you want to do?
Now it's time to take over his mind.
Okay.
And the thought that I'm intending to plant in it is that we are friends, and he should wait here until the hobbits arrive.
Okay. So you would like him to think that you're friends? Let's start with that. So that'll be the sort of the charm kind here. Let's have you make that mental pull.
Amazing. I'll take it.
Okay. That certainly beats his okay for resistance. So he's like, wait. Okay, it's you guys. You people. Doesn't know who you are. But
sure,
like,
you don't.
Yeah, my friends, right?
Right. Delsarin and Hoppa. Two of your favorite hobbits.
Yeah. He goes, turns to you, Hoppa, and says,
nod at Hoppa.
How are you doing, Delsarin?
Well, and I put, make sure my hand is down at the appropriate level to actually, shake his.
Oh, okay.
Looks like we got a few in the pit. And I say that loudly enough to call down to the people in the pit. Good thing we have this, strong dwarf with us.
Oh yeah, yeah. Did you strip him already? Was it?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
we had a noble down there. We were throwing chicken bones to him.
But hardly seems sporting.
There wasn't much meat on him.
Where are the Nalakars? Shouldn't they be here by now?
Oh no, they got some stuff they're setting up.
With the animals that they stole from the Slotty?
Yeah.
Good.
That's some weird stuff. I don't think the boss is particularly happy with them.
I forget what's his name again.
You mean?
And I'll try Kyle if I need to.
Marcelon?
Yeah, that's the one.
And you have a couple minutes here before this is going to wear off. In that time, he will gladly help you pull your comrades up out of the pit.
That sounds like an excellent idea.
His help is not that great because he has one hand and he limps. But he will put his he'll put his back into it to help you up. And he's like,
and I recommend, I think that Eduardo come up first. Like, yeah, I think that one there. Let's get his gear first.
Okay. So you'll pull him up, and Edward, they're pulling you up. Do you pop up, or how do you do that?
I will. So, did we hear much of this? Did we have any idea what's going on?
That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I think I sort of I pitched my voice to say that we had a dwarf with us, and
okay,
that we were going to pull him up and strip him.
I'll definitely make the dwarf do most of the work, but I'll also come up, ready to take whatever action seems appropriate.
Okay. So he pulls you up, and you don't look dead, right?
Right.
So
not even a little bit.
He goes, "Oh no, crackers! That guy's alive!" He starts getting ready to drop the rope.
Crackers.
Turns to you, Hoppa. Stab him! Stab him with your torch!
I'm like, and I say to Edward,
Is this one out? Is this guy a witness or? Well, Lucky. I guess it's not really your lucky day. So while he's all astonished and terrified and screaming for the least likely person in the group to kill me with his torch, I'll whip out my rapier, and I don't really want to kill him.
You could certainly strike him with the pommel.
Yeah. I'll whip out my rapier and just put the pommel into his temple on the draw.
Let's have you make a simple combat pull. This is more kind of seeing if you can do it before he can kind of make too much noise.
Right. I don't actually remember which one of these I am.
You are the red one, I believe.
In a minute or two. So combat is just missed, but I have combat of 2, so we'll pull another one of those. You may not redraw this card. Draw and take the next card's result, unless that's fair enough. And that combat there is amazing. So I stretch him out like a poleaxed dwarf.
And the little H on there tells me that you do high damage. So there is a resounding clang as you bring the pommel across this dwarf's temple, and he drops like a sack of dwarven potatoes to the ground.
Good job.
Lovely subterfuge. Nicely done.
And we know the name of their leader.
Mean anything to you?
Have I heard of Marcelon?
No, that's a very weird name.
Like Hoppa?
Is there any chance that I would have read about him in reports?
Well, this would be a very difficult check. We'll see if you get some astonishingly high result, but I'll let you make a mental pull with lore.
Catastrophic. I'm going to go with catastrophic.
Marcelon was the name of a donkey in a children's story, you think, that you read one time? But you're not entirely certain if that's true.
Oh, so how would a donkey be able to coordinate all of this? Guys, I think maybe we need to go back to Red because maybe they're harboring a super intelligent donkey. That's my deductions.
Mm-hmm. Like, I'm pretty sure my illusion did not addle your brain, but did you get struck by the dwarf in the fray?
No, that name that comes from an old story. They used to call it a children's story, but there's always a grain of truth in every story. So in this story, there was a donkey of the same name.
I think that would have to be a little bit more than a grain there to turn the donkey into a criminal mastermind. More like a bolt of truth.
Look, I'm here for my book smarts, and
which I normally respect.
Let's get Argo and the young master there out of the pit.
And I will say, Argo, you can bring Linzit up and kind of get him settled.
I'm going to tell him, because I know I'm going to have to injure him, that with my magic, I have managed to mute his pain. But I'm not going to say, you're better, but you're better wrong. I'm just going to say, you are injured, but you're not going to feel it right now. We need to take care not to make it more severe, and I can try to fix it properly when we are not in such dangerous environment.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. Do you have anything besides like food or water, maybe?
I will look down at my vest and my bare belly. And like reach into an inside pocket, and then no, but I'm sure we will have more when we leave. Let's find you something that is a further reason to not stay here. Young master, please, after you. Well, not after you. Please lean on me.
Well, I'm going to assume, for the sake of dynamics here, that you can leave him here. Not drag him along and leave him here in relative safety, so that you don't have to protect him, don't have to escort mission him along. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. I think the only thing we want to ask is, it's still a little mysterious why he was separated from Kajarin. So I'm just going to ask if he can give us the quick, what the hell happened? We're glad we found you. We still need to find the ones who did this to you, but how did you get here without your guide? And what I really wanted to know
I fell down into the pit, and then he went to try and find somebody, and then he got into it with the hobbits, and he got hit in the face with something, and he said he was coming back for me, and then I didn't see him again.
Okay. He went for help. Well, he summoned help, and I gesture to us after a fashion.
My leg feels kind of funny.
I say, here, let me help you with that. And then I think I'm going to try and very medically knock him out.
I will say that is not a problem for you to do. He is weak enough. You can do that easily.
And then I look at you guys and say, well, so they're not here, but this is obviously their trap. Who was this?
This is Lucky, the dwarf.
Marcelon?
This Marcelon, Hoppa thinks it's a donkey, but while we are chasing, two hobbits with a, blink dog and a gelatinous cube, I would hope there's not a donkey involved.
Yeah, I think blink dog, gelatinous cube, it's one thing, but bringing a donkey into it is rather beyond the pale.
It sounds like there's more afoot than just this trap for rich adventurers.
Well, do you think they might want the creatures just to make the dungeon that much more authentic, or perhaps they have other nefarious schemes?
I can think of many uses for dead blink dogs, but not really many good ones for good blink dogs. For live blink dogs in a dungeon.
That gelatinous cube could be used for
gelatinous cube is that I could see, but as the Slotty mentioned, they do take a while to grow.
Perhaps conjecture doesn't mean much right now. Perhaps we should simply find them.
Oh, that's a good point. I'm thinking it's not the blink dog that they're interested in. I'm thinking it's the blink dog puppies. Raise it from birth, train it to teleport into rich people's houses, and pick up shiny stuff in its mouth and teleport back out. I think that's what the blink dog's about.
A number of possibilities.
Yeah. But yeah, we should move on. We should put an end to this.
So you can gather yourselves together, have Linsett sort of stowed away safely, and you can press on forward.
Truss up Lucky first, too. Make sure if he comes to, he's not a danger to anybody.
All right. Fair enough. Pretty easy to do, given his general condition. And you will make your way down the halls and around. You can see that there are some other traps here, panel traps and things darts that would be fired off. But as Lucky has come down the hall, he's turned those off to check on things. Edward, it sounded to me like maybe you're at the front of the line at this point, right?
Sure.
Okay. You will continue moving on. The hallway slopes downward at a slight angle, and you'll stop because you can see that the doorway, the end of this hall, there's no door in it. It's just an open doorway. You can see that there's torchlight or brazier light in what seems to be a big open stone room, dimly lit by these braziers. You can just kind of barely make out the far wall, but you don't see anything from here. You're probably back about 20 feet from the doorway, but it's definitely kind of the end of this. What do you want to do?
I want to hand my torch to Hoppa maybe, and try to slip up a little bit closer without carrying a light source. Maybe just so stay out of sight. Get a peek inside that room and see what I can see.
Let's have you make a
if I'm too far ahead of them to do that, I'll just set the torch down
I figure you guys are reasonably close to one another here. Let's have you make a mental pull. Repull with investigate.
Okay. Catastrophic. Well, I do have a point of investigate, so moment of glory.
So you move up, and it takes a second for your eyes to kind of adjust, and you're looking, and it's a big room. The braziers are kind of hanging down. There are some pillars in here, and you're like, okay, this room is weird, and it takes you a second to realize when there's maybe like the air shifts a little and you see the far wall kind of ripple.
Okay.
You realize it's a big painted curtain.
Okay.
But the other thing that you will notice is it's very hard to make out, but there are some, like, can just maybe make out a couple of points of light in that curtain. Like there are eye holes or arrow holes there. But you would guess that that curtain probably cuts this room in half.
All right. I'll come back and report that and say this looks like this is the end of the line, and the just over my shoulder there's a bunch of murder holes in the far wall there set up. If anybody makes it this far, they just do them in the old-fashioned way, which I assume means they have to know they're coming.
I'd love to make one of us look like Lucky, but unless I see them, I can't affect their minds.
What are we still doing in here?
There are still the hobbits.
We're getting promotions. That's what we're doing.
I mean, the other group took down a vampire yesterday. If we don't come back with those hobbits and that blink dog, and hopefully the gelatinous cube,
and maybe this Marcelon,
we're gonna look like fools. We don't want to look like fools.
Yeah, I better be a live fool than a dead hero.
But best to be a live hero. Let's get him.
What? How stealthy are we? I'll look at. I look at everyone except Hoppa, right? I think we can slip in there unseen.
I think we can
get the drop on.
All spells. I can throw a water bolt at the curtain. Maybe that would drop it. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm just wearing my ceremonial armor and carrying my ceremonial sword and 2 torches. Yeah, stealth. Guys, come on, what are we doing?
I seeing Edward's glance, I'm like, at this point, I think this would be a good opportunity for you to stand back, and if anything goes drastically wrong, you can at least make it out with Linzit and get assistance for us.
You're not leaving me alone in here. Someone's got to stay back with me. I'm not staying alone.
Making life difficult for me. I don't want to leave you here to face any potential danger by yourself, but I don't want to leave. There
shouldn't be anyone coming down the hallway after us. I'm more concerned about the ones in front of us.
What makes you say that? Like, what evidence do you have that no one's going to be coming down that hall? Where are these hobbits? We don't even know.
You are lucky I've taken strict oaths not to toy with your mind.
Well, you're lucky I've taken a strict oath not to write people up for endangering lives.
And as you guys, of course, are talking, you're arguing with me a little bit. Your voices are going up just a little bit each time, a little bit louder.
I feel like I'm just watching the tennis match. My head kind of going back and forth, and I start to kind of take a step back as I look at the end, and I feel like Mom and Dad are going to be arguing for a little bit. Maybe I need to, just kind of let them at it while I go see what's going on.
So, what are you going to do, Argo?
I think I'm gonna go down to the end, and I'm not crazy stealthy, but I don't want to just like kick down the doors and go in. Is there a way to like either get around, or is it just like completely shut in? The only like I don't know. I can fucking
doorway, big room, curtain, far wall, some pillars in here. You could try and stealth your way from pillar to pillar over.
Yeah, I think that I will be using the pillars. I mean, there's plenty of shadow in here.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not, worried
Very
about
theatrically done. Yes.
Out in the open like crazy, but I want to get to that curtain to be able to see what's past it.
Let's have you make a physical pull, re-pull with stealth.
Alrighty. Punchy Gnome says, physical is great.
Okay.
Now, how exactly does fate work? I feel like this is why I've been saving them up. And can I?
Well, you could spend a fate point, tag one of your aspects, and bump that up to like an amazing if you wanted.
Okay. Let me ask, since I had mentioned it earlier, that misleadingly fat and jolly was like what I had proposed. And kind of my intent behind that is people have their stereotypes about like how fat people are not athletic, and I kind of picture him sort of like Sammo Hung.
Yeah, I like the Sammo Hung analogy. That seems perfect to me.
I think we all like it.
I say with an amazing, you can dart from pillar to pillar, kind of roll serpentine, and get over close to that far wall. Not through it, but you can kind of see you're at an angle. Nobody spotted you, and you can hear maybe there's some hushed conversation on the other side of that. Delsarin, what are you going to do?
I do get tired of fighting with Hapa, because I always get my way, and Hapa is just constantly obstinate. So I think my last words were like, write me up if you want to. We're going down the hall. Hopefully Lindsay can protect you. And I'll start moving down.
And do you want to go on in? Do you want to try and stealth, or are you positioning yourself?
Then position myself, towards the curtain as well.
Okay, let's have you make physical pull with stealth.
Let's see, catastrophic. I do have stealth.
Okay.
And I think I just used someone's wrong card.
Oh, that's okay. You're at the bottom on the green.
I'm at the bottom, so I'll do my card. Moment of glory.
So the gnome is like, super sharp, and then somehow, like a shadow, Delsarin's like floats over. No one sees him. You're stunned.
Yeah, and I'm not crouching down or anything. This is just like elegant, walking like as if no one would ever be looking for me. Anyways.
So the gliding elf goes across.
So
Edward,
regal.
Edward and Hapa, you are bear witness to that. Edward, what do you do?
Well, I'm in a bad spot here because my trouble aspect is to keep my fellows safe, and now I have to decide which fellows I need to keep safe. So what I'm going to do, I think the only way around this is I tell Hapa, say, look, just stay right here, and if we cry for help, use your best judgment. I'll be in your sight, and I'm gonna go to the end of the hallway, and I'm gonna watch these two, very adroitly sneak across the room. I'll have my sword in my hand, and I'll probably render myself useless through indecision. But at any event, I'm gonna have to just be prepared to go to the aid of either group.
Okay.
Should something develop.
You're at the doorway, open doorway to go in. Those two have moved up. Hapa, do you want to get up behind Edward? Do you want to fall back?
Hapa is going to take Edward's advice because he has a lot of respect for him. So while Edward's telling him this, he's glaring at the shadowy elf, like you would abandon me like such trash, like, is going through his mind. And so he's like stepping back to find like a shadowy nook which he can hide in. I think he puts the torches, like finds places in the walls to sit them, and just wants to just hide it out. Also holding his sword with both hands, still shaking, and yeah.
Got that. Got those torches and sconces. Got this big scissor sword out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So let's cut to the two. They're up by this painted curtain. Whispering going on inside. Delsaron and Argo, you kind of look at each other. Can see. What do you guys want to do?
I want to see if I can see through some of those peepholes.
Okay.
And get close enough to hear what's on the other side.
You had a moment of glory. So, yes, you can kind of pull it slightly aside. And you will see there are two hobbits there. And they've got this cage with a dog that seems like it's kind of in some distress. Like it's laying on its side and it's clearly sort of whimpering. And you will see they're clearly talking to a third person, and you look up and you will see there is this figure, bandaged, ancient, robed, and you see this mummy that is like, and we're gonna do what with this dog? What about you, Argo?
I think my intention was to eavesdrop on enough of the conversation to sort of figure out my next move, and I think hearing that, ultimately, I feel like there's no time like the present to, do something, because when they're in, chains is as good a time to interrogate them.
What do you want to do?
So, I think I kind of catch Delsarin's eye and sort of, point to him and kind of make a, you go this way, and then I'll, point to myself and go around the other. And I think that I am going to try and get myself to a spot where I can basically pop in amongst the group to try to subdue people before they can really react. Basically, I want to be able to take them by surprise, because if we have to deal with a mummy, I don't know a good way to...
That seems perfect to me. So we'll put a scene aspect here. I think with your stealth pulls, we'll say that surprise with a couple of invokes is on the table. And let's have you go. Can pull that curtain. Light will flood into the room where you are, Edward, from that curtain being thrown aside. And you weren't expecting a mummy, so that's maybe a shock to you. Delsarin realized it, but Argo, Edward, probably a shock. And you see these two hobbits. They got little scars on their faces. They got, like a gold tooth. They look like real vicious hobbit killers. And they turn and look at you and go, so what do you want to do? Who do you want to punch?
I think I wanted to basically pop down right in between the two hobbits, and just while they're starting to make that little rict of a face, I kind of reach out with both hands and do the what was it, like the crouching tiger, the kind of bit where I touch several points and just sort of freeze them in that pose. Okay. At least I'm attempting to use my freeze ability.
Okay, I will let you target one of the targets.
Okay.
So that's going to be done as a combat pull, because that will resolve with your magic to create that advantage on them.
Now I spend the stress regardless.
Yep.
And you said that's fighting, or you said that's magic, not fighting?
No, you do use fight for that.
Okay. So, where's my stuff? Combat. Let's try that again. Okay. Catastrophic is not what we want.
All right. So he's got an okay for his defense, so you need a great or better to hit him.
It says spend a fate point to win big, and I'm going to win big.
Okay. So you land between the kind of probably near the cage where this pregnant blink dog is, and you reach over and you will do that to one of them, and will completely freeze up. There's probably that moment, and then tilts. So he is going to be frozen for the next couple of bit here.
You know what? I just realized I hit red instead of purple.
That's okay. I'm not particularly worried about that. I'm actually going to reshuffle everyone's deck here real quick before we go into a scene here. Delsarin, what do you do?
What do I know about mummies?
They are undead, depending on their level of sophistication. They could cast magic. They're probably pretty resilient. They might have some servitors here, lesser undead, but you haven't really seen all that much evidence of that.
Right. So you said there were the two hobbits, then the mummy was near them. Or...
Yeah, the mummy is clearly having a conversation with them about his irritation at them bringing this blink dog to the dungeon.
Well, because I see the position of Argo being relatively close to them, I'm going to set up a water shield between the hobbits with, Argo and the mummy.
Okay.
So if the mummy lashes out, hopefully there'll be some extra defense for them.
Perfect. Go ahead and make a simple mental pull. Just need an okay for that spell to go off.
Well, that's not that. So I will.
That's a win big. No, that's a great one.
If I'm looking out for number one.
Oh no, you're helping somebody else. Oh right. Yeah, that's exactly the opposite.
And that's definitely not what I'm actually trying to do in this situation.
Okay, so you get 2 repulls.
Well, I will go with the third, whatever it is.
Okay.
Amazing.
So it kind of takes you a second to get the energy together, but you will pull that water shield up. What do you do, Edward?
Oh my gosh. So I'm over here. I'm all a quiver with anticipation, and I'm going to miss the, chance finally. So I'm just going to, I'm going to say, follow me. And I'm going to charge into the room, sword drawn. I'm thinking we already know these halflings are really bad characters. We've seen evidence they've been killing people. I just saw Argo, do that thing he does where he it's great for corralling collaring a perp without. So I'm not really too worried about what happens to the other one. So I'm just going to go for the, I'm going to go all out.
Okay. So who are you attacking?
I'm gonna attack the other halfling, the one.
Okay, so they got their little hobbit switchblade out, turn to face you. Let's have you make a combat pull. It's gonna try and parry. Ooh, a catastrophic is not gonna parry, so just need an okay.
Well, I have an amazing. So
okay, and what's the damage with your blade?
On a low damage result, it's 3, but okay. I certainly beat him by a bunch. I don't actually remember in Fate what difference that makes.
So what is, I actually count the degrees on that. You got an amazing, he got a catastrophic. So max add is 3. So yeah, you actually plunge that into him, and he'll cry out and drop back, and you see him, he's not down, but he's trying to pull open that pregnant blink dog cage.
Oh, you
hop up. Everyone's run away on the other side of the room.
Hopper's pressing himself further and further, closest to the wall as he possibly can. He's got out his notepad and quill, and he's writing, "It is the 23rd of the season of spring. Dear mother, I am about to die. You should have pulled some strings. You should have worked harder to get me into the bureaucracy because of your failings as a parent. I am sent to my death. My comrades, if you can call them that, have abandoned me."
So as you are penning this missive home, this letters from the trenches, the mummy, put that water shield between Argo and the mummy. You'll see the mummy will raise its arms and it runs, and like it just freaking beats feet running towards where Hoppa is out, and it dashes much faster than you would expect a mummy to run across the room. And Hoppa, this mummy is coming barreling at you. As you kind of look up and you see this figure from hell coming your way.
So you didn't think that Hoppa could get any paler? Well, he's almost luminescent with how pale he is. So he's got his pen in hand, and he launches it at the mummy.
Okay.
And he's going to try and use his blessing of ink to control the ink that's within that pen to blind the mummy.
Okay. So your magic uses social. So go ahead and make a social pull. You can re-pull with your magic skill.
Okay, so I've just re-pulled. So the first card was dismissed. So the second card. So is it mental or
social?
Yeah. So great.
So this quill goes flying, ink sprays out from it, and hits the mummy in the face. And of course, it's got bandages, and that immediately like soaks it in, and it will kind of smack against the wall there, and it's gonna be blinded. It's got an aspect on it as it's like, oh God, why? As you do that. Back to you. Actually, the Hobbit is going to attempt to pull open. The Hobbit is trying to pull open the cage and having no luck at it. And it's clearly trying to rile the blink dog, like to get it angry so it'll attack you guys. Argo.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just shoved something in my mouth.
More fool you.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'll just cover my mouth when I say this.
Okay, fair enough.
I think that I'm sort of torn, actually, with, the mummy is obviously the brains of the operation. We want to get him. But I feel like, this hobbit is endangering the blink dog only for its own, gain. There's no reason we should be having to put down a blink dog, especially a pregnant one. And so I think what I want to do is, was it the sister / perhaps wife that I, paralyzed the first time?
Yeah, it's very hard to tell the gender of them. They're kind of filthy and unpleasant. So you're not sure which is the brother and which is the sister right now.
Okay, well, the one who's next to the cage, then.
Yes.
I'm going to go up, and they're already injured. So I think as I come up, I'm not sure if this is like regular fate. Can I try to invoke that injury as a bonus to my attack?
No, because I didn't put they've just took physical damage on them.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
It just took stress.
Okay. So then, yeah, I'm going to go up and basically attempt to, similarly incapacitate them.
Okay, let's have you make that combat pull.
So down to 11. And this time the correct
deck.
If the action involves interacting with another person, does,
Yes, it does.
touching their kidneys, then yes.
Yeah, so you can get up close, and Edward's already kind of pushed them back, and you'll do that, and you can stop them dead in their tracks as well.
Okay.
Even as they're trying to get the cage open.
Yeah, and so I just kind of do the tap, 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 and then with the last sort of strike, I kind of put my hand up against their forehead and just push them back so they kind of flop over in their frozen pose so that they are away from the cage.
Delsarin.
Seeing as the two hobbits appear to be dealt with, and the mummy is flailing against the wall.
For the moment.
I'm going to walk closer to that mummy and wrap my staff, hard on the ground and say, cease your struggle and submit to us.
Social pull with presence.
Or I will wash, the remaining flesh from your bones.
Oof.
Let's see. Well, luckily I have a redraw on that.
That you do.
I don't want egregious humiliation. But I will take just missed.
Okay.
Unless
I
could invoke.
Blinded. He's in a bad position. You can invoke that because certainly that was put on there by Hoppa. You could use that.
I would like to do that.
Or to bump it. Do you want to redraw or do you want to bump it up by one?
Bump it up by one is only going to make it what? Okay.
That's right.
Is that surprise aspect basically gone now? We never used its evoke, so
yeah, I think it's a fragile one. I think at this point.
Okay.
I'm going to do it for a redraw.
Okay.
And risk the results. Great.
So, Hoppa, Delsarin actually looks kind of scary, and gets up behind this mummy that you've squeed in the face, and you see the mummy. It's like, it's a fair cop. Okay, all right, and puts its bandaged hands on its head. Let me cut back to Edward. There's this blink dog kind of thrashing in this cage. These two unconscious hobbits. What do you do?
Actually, I'm looking around for a glass box.
Right there on the table.
That probably looks like it has nothing in it, but I know better.
Oh no, it looks like it has like Jello in it.
Oh, okay, you can see it. All right, so I just want to make sure all the pieces are are in place here. So I don't want us to get surprised by a cubling.
That's true.
Cubette.
Yeah, you can spot that. Do you have the chew toy?
Who has? That's right. One of us has the chew toy. I think it's Argo. I'll remind Argo about the chew toy. Argo, feed the blink dog. Remember?
I'll nod, and by my turn, I'm fishing it out of my pockets.
Okay, so you guys can settle down. This blink dog, get the chew toy in its hands. You've got the gelatinous cube in hand. Hoppa, you just took down a mummy, and it's dropping to its knees with its hands on its head, with kind of a low moaning.
Hoppa, seeing his success with something physical, is like struck with pride, and he puts down his notepad and fishes out his guard's book out of his bag, and he stands up and dusts himself off and starts to read the mummy his rights in a quavering voice.
And okay, all right, okay, all right. What was that last part?
You have the right to remain wrapped up in bandages Oh, and actually, I was meant to say your name at the beginning. I haven't done this before. What's your name again? Thanks.
Marcelon.
Oh, how do you spell that?
Like the donkey from the children's book.
I told you guys.
And so I think we're going to cut there with you guys having found this mummy. These hobbits had broken into a temple, woken up essentially the lowest mummy servant of the temple, and come on to this scam. The Slackjaws will arrive. We get that, that end of the cop show scene with the officers taking away the hobbits in cuffs, probably on slabs, carrying them out because they're paralyzed. The monster control officers taking the blink dogs. I assume Delsaron and Hoppa doing the perp walk with the mummy. And I assume Argo carefully getting this noble out who's looking at his foot, starting to, oh my God, what's happened to my foot? And probably Sergeant Adara will look at you and Edward and go, good job, guys. I assume Hoppa's going to do the paperwork.
Oh yes, please.
Oh, yes.
I'd like to see just before the monster handlers take off the blink puppy, that the blink puppy has its litter and is cleaning its puppies after a birth, and they're all looking cute and young, and so the blink dog is seen in a new light, as rather than being a monster, is a caring, doting mother.
They are fairly adorable. They will be that way for a little while before they become horrible creatures. But for the moment, they are adorable. And I think that's where we need to stop. It is 10:30, which is our standard stop time. So I do want to call it there. Though if you have a few minutes, I wouldn't mind doing Roses and Thorns. If you guys have a little bit of time to spare. Mm-hmm. And usually I do Thorns first on my side of things. So I'm very pleased that the cards came out as well as they did. They're still a little hard to work with. I wish they could resize them. That's a disappointment to me I can't make them bigger on the screen because I think it'd be easier to work with. So that's just a minor thing for me, a thorn, and I want to look at if it's going to be possible to do those cards electronically or not. So that's my thorn. Tejas, is it Tejas?
Tejas like contagious.
Oh, okay.
Like,
sorry,
the donkey from the book.
Oh, like the donkey from the book. Tejas, any thorns that you have for system or story or how we ran or play or anything like that for the sessions?
I kind of want to say no, so let me find something to pick on for a second. I think that the only thorn that I might say is I'm not really used to online gaming, and there was enough lore that I found myself wanting to take notes, and I'm not, I'm not good at multitasking all my windows because I'm playing on a laptop.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
And so, kind of trying to track the lore and keep the notes. Since it's an investigation, I wish there was just a better electronic way to handle that. Because I've got my Hangouts window, and then my window for my character sheet, and then the Roll20 window, and then a Word document, and it's a 13-inch screen. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, no, that's a fair comment. I think that's a good one to think about. Steve, what about you?
I don't remember what the description of the game is. The only thorn I would have is, I guess I wasn't expecting quite as light of a tone
Okay.
From the description of, Lakmara and, gritty city, type thing. Had no problem with the game. Enjoyed it. But the tone wasn't what I, anticipated going in.
Yeah, I'll say I think that's a really fair thing. When I've run it, it's gone a couple of different ways, but it does. I should consider that it does tend to lean into the light a little bit more, and I should need to be upfront about that. I think a little clearer about that. That's a good feedback.
Yeah, no issue with it. It was just different than I anticipated originally.
Keith?
I really didn't have any complaints at all. If I had a complaint, it would be with myself. Just I'm gamed online a lot, and there's aspects of it that I need to be a little bit more familiar with. I'm more used to being around the table, and I'm more used to, I love the open table notion, but I'm not. It's really, really rarely that I sit down to a role playing game with people I haven't played with before. So there's some things for me to take away from it, but those are just for me.
Yeah, it took me at least 2 years of doing this, pre-Gauntlet and then the start of Gauntlet to get where I was comfortable with it. I mean, I was okay, but to really go, okay, I like this. I like what I'm doing. It's a learning experience.
Yeah.
Ellen, any thorns from you?
Just following on from Tejas's comment, I use a notebook to keep track of those kind of points that come up in the game that you might need to remember. But also I find it really interesting because when you're playing a few games over a period of months, you're like, oh, what was that character that I played? So it's kind of nice to go back and look at your notes from an old game just so you can relive it a little bit, or you might get some different ideas from it. In terms of thorns, I haven't played that much with these mechanics before, so it really took me to like halfway through this second session to grasp the trouble and aspects and fate and stress and all that kind of stuff. If there was maybe a cheat sheet of mechanics that could be sent out with the game preview, that would have helped me.
I have a cheat sheet and I stuck it in that folder, and I don't think I necessarily pointed you guys to that as well as I could have.
So I read the PDF. That kind of seemed like it was more about the game, and then there was a PDF with the cards. But in terms of mechanics, I don't remember seeing anything.
Yeah, there's an action cards cheat in there, but that's the only one that has the mechanics of how that works. But there's probably needs to be better presented.
Yeah, sorry, I must have
No, and I don't think I pointed you guys to that explicitly, so I think that's on me, at least partly.
Yeah.
Let me talk roses. So I thought the dynamic that all of you built between each other over the course of the 2 sessions, the way you interacted, was an absolute joy to watch. To watch you guys play. That you had different reactions to the different PCs, and that you're at odds at certain, but you we're together with a shared vision at others. So I really dug that. So that for me is definitely a rose that I very much enjoyed that. And what about our gnomish friend? Any roses?
I think I have big props to Ellen. I thought that Hoppa's characterization was awesome. I feel like the rest of us were like sort of still feeling out our characters, and I think by the end of the second session we kind of had like a feeling for personality, but I feel like Ellen was like right there, right at the beginning, because I just thought Hoppa was like easily like what I found, like the little glimmering jewel of like, you know, character. I thought it was awesome. I thought you did a great job.
Yeah. Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve, roses?
A couple. Really like the system. You know, first time doing action cards, Fate. Liked it versus, you know, the normal fudge dice, as we discussed during our break.
Right, yeah.
I enjoyed, you know, how you pace things and you know, gave attention to everyone. You know, you were always looking to, you know, okay, who hasn't, you know, done anything, you know, let's get to them. And I appreciate that in a game master.
Good. I'm glad that worked for you. I'm always nervous about that, especially when we got characters that are going in different directions. So I'm glad to hear that.
Can I add to something that, you know, Steve's saying that made me think of? I know that you have run this several times and you've got your idea of what's going on, but it didn't feel like it was on rails. I really felt like a lot of what happened because of what we did, and I think that's, you know, because of the way you ran it, you know, you adjusting to us and, you know, what we did. So
oh yeah, it's very nebulously written. I do try to react to that, and it's always a joy to see what directions you guys go in. As I said last time, no one has ever gone, hey, boy, maybe we shouldn't attack these monsters. That was priceless. Keith, roses?
Yeah, I definitely agree with the comments made up to this point. I thought all four of you had excellent characterizations. It was really that was really entertaining and pleasant. I enjoyed it a lot. I really like the setting. I would love to see more of Abshan. I thought I really enjoyed it. So some good work there. It's very evocative of the things that you call out in your, you know, in the materials when you discuss it, with a much more as it should have, with a much more sort of old school fantasy game sort of sensibility.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I'd like to see it again.
Oh, awesome! I'm glad to hear that. Ellen, I'm going to give you last word.
Well, echoing what everyone else said, yeah, the system is fun. I really like the cards over dice, like Steve said. Really love the world, and your GMing was just superb. Like, wow. You're hilarious. I'm glad that I have a mute button, because my cackling would have disturbed any listeners. Had super lot of fun, and you guys are all great to play with, and like you were saying too, well, I really enjoyed how we all interacted with each other and with the NPCs too. That was great fun watching everyone go their own ways as their own characters. That was awesome.
It was good. It gelled fast. I enjoyed the dynamic, loved it. So had a great time running it. Again, thank you all for being willing to play in the setting and to try out the system, and enjoyed playing with all of you. And I'm going to stop the recording.